Welcome to the Discovery Podcast, the show where we unbox, discover, and discuss the latest drops in personal and professional development. We are being brought to you by Zenboks. Take control, download Zenboks on the App Store today, and begin your journey of discovery and self-elevation. I'm your host, Andre Paolo, and I'm here with my guest host, Alessia Scauzillo, my partner in crime on the Zenboks team, and our very, very special guest who's come highly recommended. We were on the Team Wellness TO podcast the other day, and they spoke very highly about our next guest. And they even mentioned about an event that they had that was sold out and was absolutely amazing. I'm honored to introduce Alessia Scauzillo.
Thank you so much for having me. That was very nice. Thank you, Kira and Sarah from Team Wellness TO for saying such nice things about me too.
Welcome to the Discovery Podcast. It's great to have you. And, before we begin peppering you with questions, I just want our guests to get a little background on you, know a little bit more about you. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So at the core of it, I work full-time in finance at a bank. I'm in the real estate financing group there. And then I work part-time as a fitness instructor. I guess part-time probably isn't the right word. All the rest of the time of my life is fitness, yeah. So I'm from Toronto. I went to McGill University, moved back home after school, started working at PwC, which is an accounting firm where I got my CPA designation. From there, I went to work at RBC. I've been at RBC for about 4.5 years now. And it was a couple years ago that I sort of realized that the banking life wasn't necessarily for me long term. And I had fallen in love with fitness over the last several years. And there's kind of a deeper story to that, and we can absolutely get into it. And so I decided to sort of introduce fitness into my life as an instructor after being so in love with it and it being the highlight of my day for so many of my really long days at the office. Like I was working really long hours and I was always so happy when I was going to the gym or to classes. And so that helped me tap into, I want to share this with other people. And that's how I became a fitness instructor. So I still work full-time at the bank, and then I teach on nights and weekends at a studio called L Fitness in King West. So it's a busy life, but I like it.
Well, this is like something that we've noticed has become very, very common amongst our contemporaries. The other day, Mel and I were talking about this, actually after the Team Wellness TO podcast, that I'm like the opposite. I started out in wellness, and then I'm kind of working my way towards more of like the corporate,
really
side of things. Whereas I'm noticing a lot of our contemporaries are going the other way.
Yeah.
Whether it's part-time or halfway or all the way in, people are making, I guess, career choices based on what makes them feel good, what improves their wellness as opposed to what makes them more money.
100%. And I think for me, it really comes down to a lesson that I learned pretty early on, which is that life is short. Life is long. It can be long. And so you've got to do something you love. But also life is short, so you got to do something that you love. And what happened was my mom passed away when I was 20 years old from cancer. And I think from that and seeing firsthand someone who was young and supposedly healthy pass away, and then seeing kind of how family and friends sort of handled that, I really realized that, and it took me a few years after she passed, but I really realized that I don't want to be at an office all day, every day, slaving away to make money to spend during those few fleeting moments or hours that I'm not at the office, and always trying to savor those moments because they're so few and far between, but then spend most of my life trying to make money for that. It doesn't make sense to me. Having said that, I am still at the office, like I'm still working full time, but I'm on this path that is like I'm definitely prioritizing my happiness, my wellness over making over the potential over the long run to make like a ton of money if I were to continue to go that banking route. And I saw my hours are a little bit better now, but a couple years ago they were really bad, and it was affecting my body, my mind. I was incredibly stressed out. I wasn't sleeping. My hormones were off. Everything was just kind of off because I was giving so much to this career, and I wasn't taking care of myself and doing what made me feel good. And so that is definitely a part of this story of why I've decided, I think it's so important to feel healthy and to feel strong, and I want to help other people do that. And so that's kind of how I got into the fitness thing.
Wow, I can completely relate to that.
Yeah.
And it's wild that you're talking about it from the corporate perspective or like the 9 to 5 perspective. In my case, at 21, 22, I started in the wellness field of personal training, coaching people in sports, etc. And I ended up with the same outcome, even though I was in wellness, even though I had
were working like crazy.
Yes.
Wow.
And giving so much of my energy to other people that I ended up in the same crossroads at around 25, 26 years old, where I'm looking at myself. I'm like, man, I'm not happy, but I should be. And I should feel privileged, but I'm not. Like, I would start my day like 5 a.m., by like 3 p.m., I'm done. Like, if I want, I could go to Woodbine Beach and chill for the rest of the day, and people would be like, wow, you have the best life. But for me, in those hours, from 7 until 3 p.m., I was going so hard that even though I had time to kind of relax, I was recovering the whole time. So I wasn't even enjoying it. So it's crazy how I feel like it doesn't really matter what your career or your job is. It's all about taking care of yourself, conserving a little bit of you so you can take care of yourself and having that life balance, right? I think sometimes when we have these conversations, we always attach it to that 9 to 5, but that's not always the case.
That's a great point. That's a great point. It could be in any career, in any industry. If you're giving more to your clients, to your job, if you're giving more externally than you are giving to yourself, you're not going to be happy. So for me, that balance means more that fitness side, right? Like building my fitness brand and my fitness career. For you, it means that business world, because inherently both of us are trying to create a life that works for us, and it's not a one-size-fits all. I find since I've been sharing on Instagram kind of my journey over the last few years of this finance to fitness, I call it #life, a lot of people have been approaching me saying they're going through a similar transition, maybe not the exact details, but a similar transition in that you kind of, at least a lot of the people I've spoken to, you finish school, you go start a job, you start to build, and it just, you keep doing the thing that you thought you were going to do. And then I find at this, it's like a late 20s, early 30 age, that a lot of people sit back and they're like, wait a second, I don't have to do the thing I did for so long because I'm already doing it. I can actually pick what I want to do.
Right.
And I don't it could be this or it could be something entirely different. I actually have that option. And I don't think people realize that when they're coming out of school. I think a lot of people are really gung-ho. They want to get started in their career. They want to build. And it's like, wait a second, does that even make me happy? And it's been a theme. I thought I was alone for a long time in that, right? I thought I was alone because I was going through this struggle in my head. I should want this job. I should. It's good on paper. It's excellent on paper, if I'm being honest. But I don't love this. I don't feel good. And I feel shitty about that. I feel very down on myself for that. And then once I started sharing, it was like, oh, so many people feel the same way.
You actually, you posted such an interesting Instagram story the other day.
Yeah.
Asking your audience if money wasn't an option, would you still work your job today?
Yeah.
I'm really curious. What was the poll answers to that question?
Oh my gosh. I got so many messages saying, no, I absolutely wouldn't. I got so many messages saying, this resonates with me so much. Thank you so much for sharing. I've been thinking, oh, my career isn't quite right for me, or I'm in the middle of a transition. It was overwhelmingly no, which is wild. In this day and age, like, we should be able to do kind of whatever we want. But I feel like people feel the pressure of, building their career, buying a house, and that all those pressures that really come around money. And it's like, forget about it. Forget the timeline. Forget the money. What would you do if you took money out of the equation? And my thing is, like, maybe you can't do that 100% right now. Like, to be quite frank, like, I can't quit my job and just do fitness. Like, I don't have, like, there's a transition there money-wise, right? So maybe you can't do it 100%, but I bet you could do it 10%. 20%. I bet everyone could do their thing, whatever makes them happy and lights them up with energy, with purpose. I bet that they could do it at least 10% of the time. And so I want to get that out there. And the feedback was crazy.
That's amazing. Sometimes people are either too scared or they just go for it.
Yeah.
And they take the risk and they jump and quit their jobs.
Which I don't agree with that either.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think that's the best route to take. Obviously for financial reasons, just for your mental health as well.
Totally.
You don't want to put all that stress factor on yourself. So I think it's so great how you take an approach of let's start incorporating your passion into my day-to-day right now while still keeping my full-time because it's necessary. Having that self-awareness, super important.
Yeah, I call it taking calculated risks. So taking a risk, going for it, going for what you love to do, or at least taking steps toward it. I think you and I have had some conversations about steps that you could take moving toward your goals, but doing it in a very calculated way. Doing it in a way that makes sense, that you're financially secure, that is realistic. I'm very much about that because, like, my background is finance, right? Like, I've been trained, what's the worst case scenario? How are we going to protect ourselves in case of the worst case scenarios? Like, right? That's what I deal with at my job all the time. And so I inherently think like that even in my day-to-day life. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to go for it, but I'm going to take measures to make sure that I'm, it's calculated, and worst case scenario, it doesn't work out, I'm not totally screwed.
Totally. So you mentioned that it's really important to take steps. And I know you and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
But for our audience, what would you say your first couple of steps would be the best way to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I did was I reached out to 2 people in the fitness industry. When I realized I want to share my knowledge and love for fitness with more people, and I want to become a fitness instructor. And I had been teaching other things for a long time. I've always been kind of in this, like, I was a TA at university. I've always tutored. I've always coached. I love sharing the knowledge that I have. And so when I decided that I wanted to share the fitness knowledge that I had and become a fitness instructor, I reached out to 2 people in the fitness industry. They were the only 2 people I knew in the fitness industry. So I think the excuse of, like, oh, I don't know who to reach out to because I don't know anyone is like, no, I only knew 2 people. So I reached out to them and said, hey, can we sit down, have a coffee, and talk about, like, what you know about the industry, what it's like being an instructor, what is the lifestyle like, what are the pros, what are the cons, what is your day-to-day like? That's a really important question because I think a lot of the time we can glamorize whatever we want to do, but really, like, day-to-day it's important, right? What's your routine like? How did you get to where you are? All that kind of advice. What kind of training do I need to take, etc. So I reached out to 2 people, and they gave me a ton of advice. And the next step I took after that was I got certified. And I don't think I needed to get certified so early in the process, but I found that it was a major confidence boost for me. I didn't know anyone really in the fitness industry. I didn't know a lot of technicalities about fitness. And so sure, I could have gone to a studio or several studios and approached them about teaching, studios that knew me, etc. But I kind of needed to know that I had something to back that up. And I think when you're making a major change or a major pivot from one industry to another or one career to another, that confidence boost, you need that, because a lot of the time you're like, ugh, really unsure. I don't know if am I going to be good at this? I don't know anything about it, but I love it, but I want to try, right? So getting that confidence, however you need to, is really important. And so that's how I knew I would feel more confident. And so that's what I did. I got certified. And then I started training. So one of the individuals that I reached out to for advice, she actually owned a fitness studio. And when I reached out to her, it was very serendipitous. She said, well, I actually take people under my wing and I teach them how to become a fitness instructor. And I was like, okay, jackpot. So I did I did like a 3-month kind of once a week series of sessions with her where she taught me the basics, the like teaching 101. What do you do? Beginning of class, middle of class, end of class, different types of training, all of that. And after that is when I started reaching out to studios. And I only ended up reaching out to one because it was L Fitness, and it was where I had worked out for years. I reached out to the head trainer there, and she gave me the opportunity to sub a few classes. The feedback was really, really good. And then I got put on the schedule. It happened a lot quicker than I had imagined, which I think is a testament to what happens when you go after something and you push and you learn and you do whatever you need to do to kind of get there. The universe rewards you.
Yeah, you were prepared for your opportunity.
Yes, I was. When I actually found out I was going to sub a class so I found out the Friday morning at 8 a.m. that I was going to sub that Friday afternoon at 4 or 5 o'clock. So I had no real time there, but I had been preparing for months, right? So I was ready. And I think that's what happens when you put yourself out there, you give something a try. I think the universe rewards you. Yeah.
Okay, next question. What are the top benefits you started to see in your career after finally pursuing your passion?
That's an interesting question, because I've been so focused on what the shift in my career, from finance to fitness has done for the rest of my life. But I haven't necessarily thought too much about what it's done for my finance career. And I would say that actually they're related, because pursuing this fitness thing has made me a happier, more alive person, and that's shown up in my finance work. I'm calmer when I come to work. I'm more level-headed. I'm more efficient, because I know that I have a lot to do outside of work. So when I'm at the office, I've got to be in it 100%, and I have to give it my all, because I don't have time to stay late and wrap something up if I haven't already finished, right? I've got to go teach. But I think this whole shift in my life has made me a better person, and that has really helped how I approach everything in my life. My relationships, my career, kind of everything.
What would you say your biggest obstacle was that you had to overcome when you were deciding to pursue your passion?
Without a doubt, hands down, letting go of the person that I thought I was going to be for so long. I went to school, I got my CA, I had such a clear track of where I thought I was going to be for so long. I envisioned myself like CEO, like, always wearing a suit every day, a really intense, like, kick-ass businesswoman. And I've realized that that's not necessarily going to make me happy. And even if I do reach that, am I going to have anyone to share my success with? There's no point in getting to the top if you're just going to be there alone, because you don't have time for the other things in your life, like your relationships, whether that's, my husband or my friends or whatever. And it took me a long time to let go of that person that I thought I was going to be. And I wouldn't even say I'm 100% there. I think there's still probably 10% of me that's holding on to, oh, well, maybe, but it takes time. I heard some really good advice last fall at the Wellness Market event. It was Katie Fenn, she's an ex-lawyer who is now a coach and has done a huge career shift. And she said, give yourself time to mourn that person that you thought you were going to be. It's not easy and it doesn't happen fast. You can't just go 10, 15, 20 years of your life thinking that you were going to do something with your life and then do a 180 and just accept it. So give yourself time to mourn and go easy on yourself while you're doing that. And that really, really helped me.
When you say give yourself time, accept your new self,
Yeah.
what are the methods or approaches you've taken to actually accept this new person?
Interesting question. It's hard because I don't know that I've been so deliberate about it, but I've tried to be still more. And in that stillness, I mean, literally, I try to be still in the mornings and I take probably 30 to 45 minutes to sip my coffee and just think. And in that stillness, I've done a lot of thinking about what I want my day-to-day to look like and what makes me happy day-to-day. And every time I think about that, I think about having flexibility, making time for my family and friends, and basically living this life that allows me to do, more than just be at the office all day, every day. And I guess it's a small habit that I've been doing every day that has made a big change. I honestly hadn't even thought about the fact that I was doing it, but 30 to 45 minutes every morning, kind of envisioning the life that I want for myself and thinking about how I'm going to get there. And how I'm going to get there is via this fitness life. It's not via the finance life. So
that's awesome, because some people, they know I need a journal. I need to reflect. I'll go run for half an hour. Like, that's their way of accepting their new self. But for you, it's being still. And I think so many people don't give themselves that time to just be present with themselves and just really sit there and enjoy the moment alone. So I think that's amazing. I'm actually super excited for you, because that's something that I would love to achieve. I can't sit still. I have a problem.
Honestly, same. And that's probably the only part of my day I do sit still, because I'm at the office all day and then I'm usually doing something fitness related, whether it's teaching or working on my kind of bigger business plans or social media or things like this, podcasts, meetings, stuff like that. So my mornings are really, really precious. And that's when I think about the big stuff like that. So
That's awesome.
One thing that I've noticed in all of our conversations on this show so far is two overarching themes. One being control. So people are taking more control of their lives earlier, a lot younger, and also acceptance, like accepting whatever truth that's happening in their life in that moment, and then finding ways to put not a positive spin, but just turning it into something positive. As you were speaking, you reminded me of this young lady that I work with at the studio called Think Fitness in Bloor West. This place, to me, the further away I get from my graduation from that place, the more special it becomes. I never really thought about that in year 1 and 2, but I'm now, I think, year 3 or 4 removed from when I left. And I met some of the most extraordinary people there. And this particular young lady was way ahead of her time. So everything you were describing, she was doing in 2014.
Like sitting in stillness and all that?
Not just that, but the whole corporate to fitness.
Oh, okay, yes.
But at the time, I don't think it was as accepted as it is now. So she was kind of not hiding it, but she didn't openly tell anybody on our end that she was in the corporate world. And she didn't tell anyone in the corporate world that she was in fitness.
Wow.
How I found out was that one of my clients went into a meeting with her, and there was investment banking. And he walks in and he sees a trainer from Think Fitness in this. And she said she turned beet red.
Oh my gosh.
Right? They kind of both just pretended first time meeting. Hi. They had the meeting and she knocked it out the park, of course. She was fantastic at what she did. And I think she came back. I think it was tough for her at first, but then she came to this realization, I'm both these people. I don't have to hide either one of them or feel ashamed to talk about my corporate life during my fitness life and vice versa, right? And at the time, it didn't really resonate with me the way it is now. So as you were speaking, I'm recalling the conversations I had with her. I'm like, wow, like she was like living in 2020
Yeah.
in 2014. Like it's unreal. But that is that acceptance word, right? Like people accepting it within themselves, society being more accepting of it, and just all of us coming to a realization that we have to live for ourselves a lot sooner.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about the stages of life traditionally, from like 16 to 24, 25, we live for our friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of us live for our friends. If you really think back and sit and say, who did I live for? Everything we did was related to our friends and the happiness they brought us and we brought them and the fun that we had. And then from like 24 to 30, we either live for our parents if they're in our lives because we feel this guilt of all the time that we've kind of wasted with our friends. And then, not wasted, but you know what I mean. And then, maybe they paid for school. Maybe you promised them you're going to, start a career, settle down in a relationship, et cetera, et cetera. So then we start to live for our parents, all the promises that we made them. And then all of the goals they had set for us from such a young age. Now we feel like we have to fulfill those prophecies. And then we get into our 30s, and let's say we settle down and we live for our partners. And people didn't really start to live for themselves or be comfortable in their own skin till their 40s. And I have friends that are about a decade older than me, and they're in their 40s, and they live so free. But the one thing they tell me is like, dude, you can be living like this at your age, if not younger. We just didn't come to this realization till later in life. So I commend you for being at that stage where you're living for yourself. You mentioned earlier that you're married, so
Yes.
you have a partner in life and you're still able to find that balance. Like that's amazing. I feel like that should be everybody's goal, is to, just find that balance between being selfish enough to take care of you, but also being selfless enough to share bits of yourself with others to uplift them as well.
Totally. And thank you. I definitely have learned so much in this process, and that's part of why I share so openly on social media about this, because I know there are so many other people out there that want to live more for themselves and do what they love, but they're scared or they're worried or they're fearful of being judged, which is a big one, right? There's a lot of ego that comes with like, oh, I'm a lawyer, I'm a banker, you know what I mean? Even if you don't love it, there's a lot of that ego that's at play. So I always want to share as much as I can about the fact that you can make a change no matter what age you are and prioritize yourself and your happiness more. And like I said before, the more I share, the more I hear about all these people
Right.
that are like, wow, I want to do that. And it's like, but why can't you? Why can't you? I ask them, why can't you? And it's like, well, and it's usually fear that's holding them back. It really usually is.
But at the same time, though, one thing I noticed with our generation is that one thing can't be without the other one ceasing to exist. So we can't champion, people choosing the life that they want and at the same time almost make it sound like we're hating on people wanting to be doctors and lawyers and engineers. Like we need those people in the
Totally.
world. And if you're cut out for it and that's your passion
Yes.
and that's what you love, chase that, because that's what's going to bring you that happiness and that balance. You don't need to be a trainer, a yoga instructor, a meditation expert. You don't need to go to Tibet and become a monk, after 7 years. No, that's not everybody's journey. That's not everybody's route.
You're actually, I'm glad you mentioned this. You're absolutely right. And if that life is for you, then by all means, go for it. But this is about being self-aware enough to know what works for you and going after it. So if you
Exactly.
want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a banker, whatever, an engineer, go for it. But if you don't be scared to make a change. And you don't have to go into fitness or, I think careers like fitness, they're known for lots of flexibility.
Yes.
But there's other careers that you can do that have that flexibility if that's what you're looking for. Like find whatever it is that you love and figure out how to do that if that's what you want to do. I think it's about self-awareness and getting getting to know yourself enough to know, okay, what's going to work for you and what's going to actually make you happy.
And then
Digging
applying
deep.
yourself.
Yes.
I have a good friend that I've known forever. I don't even know how long now. He's a bit younger than me. And I remember he went to school. He went to George Brown College and he did hotel management. And he went to Brazil for a year and did like a study abroad kind of thing. And he enjoyed it and he liked it, but he didn't love it. And I remember him telling me, he's like, I really love acting. I want to be an actor, but like no one from Toronto makes it. Like that was his mentality, right? But I don't know what clicked with him, but I just remember one time he sends me this video. And I don't know if I think I've told this story before, maybe not. He sends me this video and he's crying. And I'm just like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, you good? What's up? He's like, was that believable? I'm like, what? He goes,
it was him acting?
Yeah, he goes, yeah, I'm practicing. Like, I was fake crack. Like, was that believable? I'm like, hell yeah, I thought someone died. Like, what's wrong with you? I called him up, like, what's up? He's like, I've been secretly practicing, taking classes. Like, I really want to do this acting thing. I said, okay, cool. How are you going to go about it? So he went to acting school, I think it's called Toronto Film School in Liberty. And from there, he started doing auditions. And long story short, he's been in the last 2 years, probably like 5 shorts, a couple of features.
Wow.
He just did I think a TV series with who's Thor's brother? Tall Australian, good-looking guy.
Chris Hemsworth? Luke Hemsworth?
Something. One of the Hemsworth. One of the Hemsworth. So he just did a show with one of the Hemsworth brothers.
Awesome.
And he has a show, I think that's on Amazon Prime, something like that. But this is in 2 years.
Wow.
Right? Of him deciding I'm going all in and he likes to say dedicating himself to his craft. He was able to see tangible results. Now, not everybody's going to have that same trajectory because he had talent on top of the work, right? He was super talented. He is super talented. And for me, I admired that so much. And it's crazy how like, it's always, they admire you and you admire them, right? Like rock stars want to be athletes want to be rock stars kind of thing. So he's always telling me all these great things about me. And I'm sitting here just admiring like just the guts and the cojones this guy had to say, you know what? I'm going to have my job that's going to allow me to be in this career. So he'll do security because that's flexible. And then he goes on his auditions and everything like that during the day, gets parts, says, hey, I won't see you guys for the next 3 weeks. And off he goes. I won't see you guys for the next 2 months. And off he goes. And I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to be an absolute rock star. So remember this name, Emidio Lopez. Remember that.
All right, got it.
Emidio Lopez. He's going to be an absolute rock star. And everybody who's listening, when he does become a rock star, I hope all of you guys take that leap of faith too.
You know what's super interesting is both of you guys mentioned really understanding what you want your day-to-day to look like. So for somebody, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to like quit their jobs and start something new. I remember when I first came out of school, I was applying for jobs and I went and ran to my brother's room and I was like crying profusely. I couldn't stop crying. And he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't even know what I want to do. And he's like, well, you don't need to know. He's like, just try things out. And if it makes you happy, then great. Like, keep pursuing that. But he's like, what I want you to do before you start applying, sending your resumes to all these corporations that may look good on paper, is write down what you want your day-to-day to look like. Do you want to work a 9 to 5 or do you want to work maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, being able to go for lunch, maybe grab a coffee with a friend, going to work out throughout your day? You need to write these things down so you can realize, okay, well, X company will allow me to do that while this company won't. So I'm not even going to bother going for that interview, applying for that job, creating that cover letter. So I think that's super important as well. Like, you don't have to start a whole new career. I think you also just need to really figure out what works for you and what really makes you happy.
Your brother's wise. Because I think that is a critical question. whenever anyone approaches me about like, how do I go about making a change, I always say, start reaching out to everyone that you know that's in a potential area that you'd be interested in and ask them a bunch of questions. Like I said that I did when I first started thinking about making the switch to fitness. And one of the critical questions to ask is, what does your day-to-day look like? Because it matters. It really does. I didn't realize how much it mattered until I had a day-to-day that was so unpleasant for me. And actually, I kind of needed to go through that for me to have all these realizations. So in hindsight, I am happy about it. But at that moment when I was working like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., dinners at the office every single night, not getting to work out, not getting to see my friends, my family, all of that, I was super unhappy. And I realized this isn't for me. But your brother is very wise to tell you that ahead of time. No one told me that when I was applying for jobs straight out of school or when I was leaving PwC to find another job. I wish I knew that, but.
Well, it helped that he was a lot older than me. He was about 5-6 years older than me. He lived the corporate world for 5-6 years, super successful. And then one day he was just like, I quit. He's like, I'm quitting everything. And
Wow.
him and his wife went to go travel the world. They were planning a 1-month vacation. They didn't come back for 8 months later.
Wow.
And they have zero regrets. And they said it was the best time of their lives. My parents thought they were freaking nuts. But he says that was the best experience. And it was able to allow him to realize what he wants to do now every day, and he lives just a way more happier life, which is awesome.
Totally.
And totally helped me too.
Before we let you go, I do want to ask on behalf of our listeners some financial health advice.
Okay.
You can take the lead, whatever amount you want to share or however little you want to share. Feel free. You take the lead on what you want to talk about in terms of like financial health for millennials, for young people between the ages of 21 to 35 that are either starting out in their life or are making a little slight pivot or a little course correction in their life. What would you say to them if they walked into your office?
Okay. I would say the most important thing is to save and to start saving earlier rather than later. Take the emotion out of it by creating a system where you save automatically. So if you're an employee and you get a paycheck every 2 weeks, set up your online banking so it automatically will put like 5 or 10% of your paycheck into a savings account. And take that emotion out of it so that money is like gone, saved. You don't even think about having it. That would be the most important thing, because I know saving and money is one of those things that a lot of people know is important to manage, but it's one of those it's a thought in your head that you're like, future Alessia will handle that. And my thing is, dive in head first right away, because the earlier you save, the earlier you can invest, and the earlier you have passive income. And there's nothing better in this world than passive income, where you could be on vacation, you could be working out, you could be right here recording this podcast right now, and you're earning income in the background. That's like the number one thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say is prioritize where you want to spend your money. So I, quite honestly, do enjoy nice things. I like to go on vacation. I love to travel. I like to spend money on wellness. I enjoy going out for dinner, but I know that about myself, and so I try and save where I can. So I prioritize where I'm going to spend versus where I'm going to save. I try and save on transportation. I try not to take too many Ubers. I told you I subwayed here. I'll subway or walk as much as I can. I'll bring my breakfast to work and snacks to work. I usually buy my lunch. But so there's areas of my life where I choose to really try and manage the costs, and there's other areas where I splurge. And so my advice would be to prioritize. So if you're someone who is thinking about making a shift in your career and you know that money is going to be something that matters in making that decision. So if you're going from corporate to a more freelance type schedule and you're not sure when you're going to get those clients, et cetera, when you go freelance, then start saving early, and part of that is prioritizing where you spend. Super, super important. And then the third thing I would say is track your expenses and make a budget and actually write it down. Because writing down, like we know when it comes to goals and things like that, writing it down makes you way more likely to stick to it. So the first step in that is tracking your expenses the way you've spent over the last 1 to 3 months, say. Then based on that, make a budget and work backwards. So if you know that this is how much you make, then this is how much your fixed expenses cost. This is how much you want to save. And then the leftover is your spending money, and that's the only amount that you can spend. So that really helps manage debt and manage what you can do. So if you're really savvy and you prioritize well, you can have that last little bucket, your spending money lasts a longer time and you can do more with it. Those would probably be my top 3 tips. I could talk about this for a while, but those would be my top 3 tips.
And where can people find you if they want to either meet with you professionally or just follow you on Instagram and get some tips along the way?
So my Instagram is Alessia Sculpt, Alessia, and then Sculpt, Sculpt. And I am in the middle of developing a website, so people will be able to find me there very soon. It's not ready yet, but I'm super excited about it. I have some big plans for 2020 that I haven't officially announced that are coming probably springtime, so I'm super excited about that. So you'll be able to find me on my website very soon.
Wow, you heard it here first. Some
Yeah.
very big things coming.
Yeah.
We're very excited to either be able to experience it ourselves or be able to support you in some way.
Thank you. I
as
appreciate
you launch
that.
into this new venture.
Thank you so much for having me today. I
course.
love to chat. I could talk all day, so I love it. Thank you.
One quick thing before we really let you go.
Okay. Sounds good.
For those who are listening and are looking to begin pursuing their passion, what would be your biggest piece of advice? We'll leave it on that note.
Okay. 2-part answer, because I have to. I got to just add in a couple more words there. Okay, 1 is go where your energy goes. I think about this phrase a lot. So if you are thinking about making a change, if you're not sure what that looks like, start going where you feel more alive, where you're lit up with energy, with passion, with purpose. And then narrow in, okay? So a really clear example is middle of the afternoon, I'd be at the office falling asleep, really bored. And then 2 hours later, so later in the day, I would be on my way to teach and I'd be basically skipping there. And I'd be like, wait a second, it's later in the day. Why aren't I more tired? And it's because my energy and my drive really is that fitness world. So go where your energy goes. And if you're not sure what that is, try a few different things and see what lights you up the most. And the second part of my answer is side hustle. I know some people don't like the word hustle, but try as much as you can while you have the stability of your existing gig, whatever that is, while you have that paycheck, while you have that comfort, and try and do those 2 things for as long as you can before you can no longer give everything you can to that side thing. You need to get rid of that full time, because I do believe there becomes a certain point where it's you can't get 100% till you give 100%. So it's all right, let's at least change what this looks like so that you can give more to that side hustle. That said, I talk a lot about, leaving the office and going into fitness. I think a part of me will always have finance be a part of my life. So I don't think I'll ever get rid of it entirely. It's just, I think for me, about finding a way to have more of a balance between the 2. But starting out, side hustle. Do both as long as you can.
Amazing. Mel, do you want to conclude with anything before we go?
No, I think you covered everything. I love the side hustle. I've always done a side hustle, so I definitely agree with that piece of advice.
Amazing.
Well, Miss Alessia, thank you for joining us today. This was, for me, my favorite episode so far.
Oh, thank
Absolutely
you.
killed it. The energy was unreal. You brought us up to a
thank
level
you.
that I don't think we've hit yet. You brought this power of the sun or something. You You came in with this energy, and we just had to meet and match you at that level. So whatever you're doing, keep it up. I learned a lot from you today, not only about fitness and not only about finance and pursuing my passions, which is at this moment Zenboks and this whole dream of mine of being able to help as many people around the world reach their highest level of their personal potential. So that's my dream, that's my goal, and I'm pushing towards that. But today you made me realize that there's a level yet that I can hit and that I have to continue to work at the pace that I'm capable of, at the energy level that I'm capable of. I feel like sometimes I leave things in reserve a little bit. And going forward, I'm going to really try to continue to push myself as hard as I can so that I can then turn around and push others as hard as so that they can find their full potential as well. But I am absolutely wired and energized right now.
I love that
so excited.
So much. And I love what you're doing, by the way, with Zenboks. I love that you're bringing these tools to people's fingertips so that they can become better versions of themselves, because I'm all about that.
And
so
that was my pivot. That was my adjustment, where I'm able to help as many people as possible, but yet still be able to take care of myself, right? So through this one tool, I can reach many. But when I was the tool, I couldn't reach that many, and then I'm draining myself, right? So that's what Zenboks is. Zenboks is, I like to call it like a digital reincarnation of what I was doing when I was at Think Fitness, right? So yeah, we absolutely rocked this show. I think
Thank you so much.
This is our best show yet.
100%
Absolutely
agree.
killed it. I'm super excited for the next one. Who are you talking to next?
We're talking to Marjan and Laura from Go With Your Gut.
Okay, I hope they're ready because like my energy is up. I'm ready. All right. Well, Alessia, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And you've been listening to the Discovery Podcast, and we're being brought to you by Zenboks. Take control, download Zenboks on the App Store today, and begin your journey of discovery and self-elevation. Until next time, I'm Andre Paulo with my co-host Melissa Spatafora and our special guest, Miss Alessia. Thank you.